Welcome back, Stomp Wrestling Gang. It's your boys, the Stomp Boys, and we're here together for the first time in a long time, here to talk about something very controversial. Now, if you've been looking out on the Stomp accounts, you know what this is about. If you read the title, you know what this is about. But I've got the boys with me. I've got Ricardo WrestleDrop. I've got the boy MPKH, both filtered and unfiltered. And I've got MKM Wrestling, Mr. Mulalo himself, and I am the South African Wrestling Observer. Still too sweet. So today, boys, talking about something that has been on the Stomp account for a while now. I think the last person to talk about it was Mr. WrestleDrop himself. We're talking about Chris Jericho, one of the GOATs, one of the greatest of all time, but we're talking about Chris Jericho right now. And he went out on a limb to say that he can smell staleness from afar, which was very interesting because all of a sudden we're looking at him and he's pretty stale. He's pretty stale. So as Mr. WrestleDrop said, he probably lost his sense of smell. And that was a low blow. That was a punchline. I didn't like that line. That was underhanded. That was a cheap shot. But that's what we're here to talk about today. That was a low blow in the purest form. But I want to hear from you guys, especially Ricardo, especially MPKH, because you're the guys who made this video come to life in our private discussions as the Stomp Boys. What's going on with the GOATs? What's going on with Chris Jericho, gents?
Man, the man with 1,004 holds. Why
the wizard?
The man who's been calling people hypocrites and parasites since 2008. Yeah, man. I guess this whole stems to Jericho trying to outdo himself almost every single time, like we've seen in the past few years. I mean, there's nothing wrong with spicing up your character. There's nothing wrong because, yeah, as he said, he did mention that he was good at smelling the staleness, but the past 3 years that he's been in All Elite Wrestling, since it's become a thing, yeah, he's been stale as shit. I won't even lie to you. From the whole Le Champion to the Jericho Appreciation Society, the MJF nonsense, anything Jericho related. Yeah, Inner Circle too. It's been drier than the Sahara Desert. So
it really
that's
has.
Just my
It really has. It feels like he at the moment while he's in AEW, it's like he just the saying where you throw shit on the wall and sees what sticks. That's literally what he's doing. He's throwing everything at it, trying to get something over. Maybe one little catchphrase, like back in the day, the list, or whatever the case is. Trying to get one catchphrase over and run with it, but nothing's working. So he's had to stick with one, and unfortunately, we got the wizard, and these whole fireball.
The wizard.
No, it's terrible.
Not the
It is
time.
terrible. If you're gonna call yourself the wizard and throw fireballs, like actually go all out. Why are you just gonna throw a fireball and that's all you do as the wizard? What does that mean now? If you're gonna do that, go all out.
So what more do you want?
I don't want anymore. I don't want anymore. He shouldn't be doing the wizard.
No, but
if he is going,
you're making a point. You're making a point that all he does is throw fireballs, which is true. I mean,
but what
it's
I'm
like
saying
a
is
children's character.
What I'm saying is that invalidates everything else.
If he was to run with the character, and go full wizard, what more would you want to see from him?
I don't know. I don't think he should be doing it in the first place. So I can't.
No costume attire. No attire change.
Something.
No costume attire.
Wearing a wizard hat.
No fireballs.
He must go back to his old attire.
He must just not go half-assed into something and have all these little half-assed catchphrases and half-assed gimmick changes and not go all in on something. Because he changes it like every 6 months. There's something new.
We grew up watching Chris Jericho. We know what he's capable of. The question is, why do something that's like out of the blue? And I mentioned this a few times. my TikTok. AEW fans will cheer for anything and everything. Trust me.
That's getting
Yeah, I'm about to get some. I'm getting some
Okay,
hate for
so
that. Oh,
That's
that
getting clipped.
that begs the question. That begs the question from me. Knowing Y2J from WWE, I think you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's safe to say that he didn't have a gimmick for most of his career in WWE.
Nobody
He
did.
was the guy with the shorts. What was his gimmick? I mean, besides wearing
joined with the whole-
trousers
he
and
joined with
nice
the whole
scarves and
Y2J gimmick.
jackets.
Joined with the whole.
Was that a
Y2J.
gimmick though?
It was in the beginning. All those vignettes, all those videos. It really was. It started out as a full-on gimmick.
the Save Me Jericho gimmick. The 2008 was actually his best year.
And that
where
wasn't
he
even
was world
Y2J era.
champion. That was the parasite hypocrite era of Jericho.
Yeah.
Like
Mm.
the one
So-
thing I can say is there have been some issues with Jericho, and we're done discussing the character part, the rivalries as well. Like I remember this rivalry, MJF versus Chris Jericho. Sure, it's possibly everything people wanted to see. Mic, promo skills, and wrestling. Now, sure, Jericho decided to throw in some comedy for some good laughs because we were in the COVID era, which at all was kind of entertaining, if I might say.
Yeah, it is what it
But
is.
the one problem that I had, Jericho won the whole feud. Even though MJF beat him the first time, Jericho decided, you know what, I'm going to get this win, and that's it. I just think Jericho didn't need that win at all. He didn't.
Yeah, it's
What was the point?
it's almost like he treats it as the Jericho show, even 3 years after AEW, because it was the Jericho show in the first 6 months. Let's be honest, it really was.
Mhm.
But it's like he's still treating it
That's
as Jericho
why.
show. 2 years later, 3 years later, like move on.
That's why I feel like nobody cared what he gave to us as long as we saw Jericho on screen.
Yeah, for that time
La
period.
Champion, people would be listening to this and say, nah, La Champion was over and that gimmick was over. But I mean, we were just excited to see Chris Jericho, you know?
And the whole
And-
AEW's whole new AEW
Exactly.
promotion.
And I mean, he had just come from a great run in Japan.
Yeah.
So seeing him on national television like we did in AEW was something that people were actually happy about. But now that we see him every week and we see him trying to reinvent himself, I think that's where the problem comes in, you know?
Mhm.
So it's too
Also-
much Jericho, but no Jericho at all type of thing.
Yeah.
Also, another rivalry that's running its course, and it's been pretty piss poor, I might say, is rivalry with Eddie Kingston. Now listen, I mentioned that I'm not the biggest Eddie Kingston fan, nor am I the biggest Jericho fan as of right now. But Eddie Kingston gets the win at him at AEW Revolution. Cool. They go on to do something else. He turns heel, forms the JAS, and then some random things have been going on. You involve Santana and Ortiz, and it's just a matter of, okay, I'm not following. I don't understand what's going on. Even more recently with that segment where Ty Conti broke, I say broke, emphasis, broke Ruby Riot's arm, where the spot was clearly set up when somebody should have been holding her. I mean, what is that? Also, as the veteran that Jericho is, he should have said, listen, why don't you do this? Hold Ruby's arm and leg so that she doesn't move, so that she can be out of action for 3-4 weeks. Then I get to do my shit with Kingston. We have that rivalry at All Out. Comes to an end. Simple. Now, what else does Jericho have to prove? If he gets this win over Kingston at All Out, what more are people going to say? Is it going to be, this is bullshit or this is awesome? What are you going to say to that?
To me, it's bullshit.
Yeah.
To me, it's bullshit. And my next question is, what does he do after that? Who does he move on to after that?
We're still yet to see Chris Jericho versus Sammy Guevara. We're still yet to see that.
Do you want to see that?
And
Who's the heel? Who's the face in that? Is it just going to be heel Guevara, heel Chris Jericho? Or does Jericho try and reinvent himself again and become a face?
Jericho
must
will
stay as a
100%
heel, by the way.
reinvent himself.
Must
Try
stay
to.
as a heel. Like a face for Jericho. I'm not speaking for me.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But Sammy as a heel, he's fine.
But then they're both heels.
But I think my thing is, it's gotten to that point where everything is just so obvious with the guy. Like, you know that every rivalry he gets into, he's gonna go over somehow. Even if he doesn't win like an entire series of matches, you know that Jericho's going to have the last laugh.
Or a big
Jericho's going
bonus.
to have the last
Especially when it's not needed for him per se.
Exactly. And it's never needed. What more does he have to prove? We're calling him one of the greatest. So why isn't he putting over other superstars who are trying to make a name for themselves?
Because it's Jericho.
I just don't get why. Yeah, he's what do they call it? He's a gatekeeper. And I think that's his greatest gimmick in AEW.
But
being a gatekeeper.
When is Tony Khan gonna actually like put a foot down and say, this is what we're doing? I said it in the video in my TikTok. Like,
yeah.
I feel like Jericho can walk up to Tony and say, I want to do this, we're doing this, and that's it. Tony just says, okay. He never I feel like that's the case, because what Jericho does is so different to a lot of the other stuff on AEW. That's what I feel. It goes on way too long, his segments, and it's always 50-50 with him and his rivalries, whereas I think a lot of other AEW rivalries is a clear winner. So I don't know.
It goes back to what I was saying. Sorry, I'll get back to you, MP. It goes back to what I was saying, that Tony Khan needs a wrestling mind behind it. Because I feel like if Chris Jericho, as a wrestler who has been doing this for however long you mentioned in the video, comes to him and says, this is what's best for business, nobody, especially Tony Khan, will say no. But if there was a wrestling mind behind Tony Khan, that wrestling mind would be like, nah, actually, Chris, this doesn't make sense. You know, so Chris is coming to his boss, who has no prior wrestling experience, let alone managing a wrestling federation, wrestling promotion. And now he has that power, quote unquote power, to say, this is a wrestling decision and I'm in the best position to make that. Tony will then say, this is a business decision and I'm in the best position to make that. So as far as it goes with wrestling, I think Chris is always going to have the last say, especially when it comes to Tony Khan.
Yeah, another thing I wanted to point out about Tony Khan is his favoritism of hotshot booking and trying to please the fans, even though most of the times it works, other times it's just like, no, this isn't right. And yeah, getting back to your point, if there was a wrestling mind, but with Tony Khan, who would it be? Because we've seen that some wrestling minds are just as deluded as Chris Jericho and Tony Khan are.
Jim Cornette.
So yeah, because I feel like if Tony Khan decides, okay, who is the perfect pick? Because let's be real, the one lesson that Tony Khan has to learn from WCW days is do not fucking touch Vince Russo. Just don't. My thing is now, if there was that wrestling mind, like say, yes, dude, this is what you're gonna do. Like Jericho would probably say, no, this is for me. I want to go out with a bang, and I want to be remembered for what I did, not the politics, which a few percentage of the fans are kind of picking up, per se, like the four of us right now.
AW should have snapped up Double J, Jeff Jarrett. That's who they should have got before he went to WWE. He would have been perfect.
I'd say so too.
Simply because he's
the
worked
question
in
then lies,
other promotions and not just WWE, and he's ran big promotions. But yeah, what were you saying?
The question then becomes, so where to from here? For our favorite Y2J,
Disappear
Lushan
for a while.
Pyong.
Disappear for a while.
Like, you
Has
don't
he,
need to retire. Just like take a break.
has he
from
Take a
has he
wrestling.
even taken a break since AEW started?
No.
I
I
know.
think around late 2021, but that was when he had a tour with Fuzzy, then he came back,
Yeah.
then he slimmed down a bit because of that health scare. But other than that, I don't think he's had time to himself, time to escape from the business, really.
Yeah.
Not
think he
saying
needs
that
to-
Jericho needs to retire.
No.
It's time that he just needs to
He's
take
old
a
now. I
break.
think he's going to be 50, I think.
Yeah, he's in his 50s. I think Jericho run his course a bit right now, so it's time for a bit of a
Yeah,
break.
he actually can retire. I mean, he won't, but no one would be mad if he does, because he's at that point. I mean, we're talking about a guy who's in a company where Sting is an active wrestler, but that's not the point. The point is that Jericho, if he was to decide tomorrow that he's hanging up his boots, no one would complain, especially because of the decline that he's been on.
Nah, I
I
think
think
people would
Question
complain.
is,
I saw a lot of people on the comments of that TikTok video defending Jericho.
A
lot of people.
AEW fanboys will defend anyone. AEW fanboys will tell you Sting shouldn't retire.
yo,
You're sounding like a
Yo,
mark now,
just-
the
by
WWE
the way.
mark.
Nah.
I get to call for
Hey.
gimmick infringement because you're being unfiltered. That's my job. Fucking hell. Gimmick
These are
They
infringement.
observers,
should
don't
be
worry.
part-timers, by the way.
Yeah,
That is
maybe
gimmick
you can
infringement.
cut down his schedule even.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to be
Because
there all the
Jericho's
time.
at the point
Does that
where
remedy the gimmick situation?
No, but I think it makes us. You forget what's that saying? Where I don't know the exact saying, but the heart grows fonder when you miss something. I don't know the exact saying, but if you don't see him for 6 weeks, comes back, does an angle with someone, disappears, comes back 12 weeks later, does an angle with someone. I think
exactly.
you'll be okay with him coming then, because he's not on your TV every week. You won't be stale then, because it'll be a new angle. It won't last very long because he's gonna disappear again. So I just think he needs to break out, like split everything he does into just different segments. He doesn't need to be constantly on TV.
What's also hurting Jericho right now is overexposure. Now, yes, I get that
That's
Jericho
exactly, yeah.
wants to be around the company just to see how things goes on, but you gotta take the time off. You can be a part-timer. I know that majority of pro wrestling fans hate part-time wrestlers, but I think Jericho has earned the right to be a part-time wrestler. Because
exactly.
Like we mentioned, he's in his 50s now. He's gonna retire in like the next 3 to 4 years from now. And we don't want to remember Jericho just for the dumbass gimmicks that he did that just weren't really gelling with some people. We want to remember the Jericho that was the man of 1,004 holds, the Jericho that loved his Jerichoholics, the list Jericho, the hypocrites, parasites Jericho, any type of Jericho. We would love that guy. We don't need the whole, this guy is just ruining himself and is not really helping the company anymore. He's just not in it. That's not what we want to remember Jericho for.
All right, gents. It's clear. It's quite clear. I think the one thing I want us to start doing in our videos is having like moments where we put each other on the spot. This week, seeing as I'm the one who did the intro, I want to go one by one. All of you, give me your final thoughts on our topic today. I'll start with Mr. MKM. Mulalo, final thoughts.
Yeah, I think he must be a part-timer because he's getting too old. Like Steen and Chris Jericho, eh? Yeah, there must be a part-timer.
Cool.
Steen needs 60.
Mr. WrestleDrop.
Just needs to change it up. We don't need to see him every week. He doesn't need 25-minute long promos. He doesn't need to be a faction leader. Just change it up. And don't just change it up to any random thing and just 1 week you this, next week you that, following week you this. Stick to something.
Mr. Unfiltered.
I'd say Jericho, slow it down a bit and put over the young guys when they need it. You don't need the wins. It's not going to damage you as a wrestler. Just put them over. Simple as that. Not saying be a job, but just put the talent over.
Put the talent over. That would have been my final thoughts as well. But anyway, thank you so much for tuning in to yet another Stomp Wrestling video. Leave your comments in the comment section below. Do you think Chris Jericho should retire, take a part-time schedule? What do you think? Are we talking bullcrap? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to follow the boys on all our social media platforms. Links are in the description. And until the next one, it's been your boys, the Stomp Boys, and that's just too sweet.